Hello and welcome to Race for the White House, a show where we get you the latest from the US elections. On today's show, we'll tell you how Iran is trying to sow discord by selling stolen Trump campaign secrets to the Biden camp. Also on the show, we'll tell you why the major labor union, Teamsters, has refused to endorse Trump or Harris in this year's presidential polls. All of this and much more, so let's get started. External forces continue to spice up the US presidential polls. Now, in an attempt to sow discord and shape the outcome of the presidential polls, Iranian cyber actors emailed associates of Biden's re-election campaign. This mail contains stolen information from Donald Trump's summer poll campaign. The emails sent in late June and early July were part of a sweeping effort to disseminate the Trump campaign. FBI has learned that the Iranian cyber actors gained access to the email account of Trump's long-term political advisor, Roger Stone. The intended recipients, who have not been identified in the statements, did not appear to have replied to those mails. Federal officials have also suggested that the hackers also attacked the Biden and Harris campaign. They believe that the emails, including the stolen Trump material, were sent with the intention of being circulated in the political sphere. The incidents that occurred before Biden suspended his campaign mark the latest example of Iran's multi-pronged approach. The warning follows a threat report by Microsoft in August, warning that Iran-backed hackers are now targeting high officials in the United States. In the same month, Google also released a report saying that the Iran-backed hackers had attacked both Trump and Biden campaigns in another phishing attacks. Now, with Trump eyeing a return to the White House, Iran is making it clear that they don't want him back. Intelligence officials have also said that Iran opposes Trump's re-election bid. Intel believes that Iran sees Trump as more likely to increase tensions between Washington and Tehran. During his earlier presidency, Trump withdrew the US from the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. This had been a cornerstone of diplomatic relations between Iran and Western powers. The move led to crushing economic sanctions on Iran, covering everything from oil exports to banking. For Iran, Trump's policies severely impacted their economy and isolated them internationally. Then there's the Soleimani strike. In 2020, Trump ordered a drone strike that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, a top military leader in Iran. The assassination escalated tensions between the two countries to a breaking point, with Iran vowing revenge and retaliating with missile strikes on US military bases in Iraq. For Iran, another Trump presidency likely means more sanctions, more isolation, and a return to a high-stakes game of geopolitical chess. Now, this comes in the heels of a high Russian interference attempt in the American election process as well. A recent report by Microsoft says that Russia is producing fake video content to meddle in the US elections. Earlier this month, authorities even uncovered social media influencers which have been hired by Russian operatives to spread videos of Kremlin's interest. Now, with Russia and Iran both ramping up cyber attacks, the battle to protect US elections from foreign interference is far from over. As new tactics emerge, it's clear that cybersecurity will play a crucial role in safeguarding the American democracy. Now, for more on this, our principal correspondent Shashank Mattu has sent us this report.
Iranian hackers have ramped up their efforts to compromise US political entities, notably after they recently targeted the campaign of former President Donald Trump. This recent wave of cyber activity is part of a broader strategy to manipulate the electoral landscape and sow discord within the American political system. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, also known as CISA, and the FBI have warned that Iranian state-sponsored actors are using sophisticated cyber tactics to infiltrate internet networks and gather sensitive information, potentially disrupting upcoming elections. This Iranian cyber threat is not new. It has evolved significantly since the 2016 presidential election. While Russian interference dominated the narrative then, Iranian actors were also active, conducting cyber operations aimed at intelligence gathering and influencing public discourse. During the 2020 presidential election, Iranian hackers were reported to have sent threatening emails to voters, posing as members of the Proud Boys, a far-right group. This was intended to intimidate voters and create confusion around the electoral process. Iranian hackers have a long history of using digital manipulation strategies and mirroring tactics employed by Russia, but also on a much smaller scale. Early initiatives included cyber battalions and content promotion tactics, with the first formal attributions to Iranian fake accounts occurring in August 2018. Facebook, for example, has removed accounts linked to Iran's Press TV for exactly these reasons. By August 2024, Facebook had suspended 30 Iranian influence operations, second only to Russia's 39. These efforts often targeted regional politics, but also took a more aggressive turn during the 2020 US elections. Iranian hackers have also created a hit list website, Enemies of the People, featuring names of officials linked to conspiracy theories. Additionally, fake social media accounts were used to comment on divisive issues, aiming to destabilize and undermine trust in the electoral process. Beyond the electoral process, Iranian cyber operations have expanded to target critical infrastructure. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, has been linked to attacks on operational technology devices across sectors like healthcare and finance, posing substantial risks to national security and essential services.
Moving on, the 2024 presidential election is nothing short of a Broadway show. So far, this year's race for the White House has had some high-octane drama and action, and now it has added some thriller and mystery as well. This comes as election officials in the US have received some suspicious packages prompting a special FBI investigation. Meanwhile, Trump rally attendees in Tucson fell sick with mysterious symptoms. For more on this, listen in to our next report.
Election officials across the US are scratching their heads and maybe ducking for cover. An investigation has been launched after suspicious packages containing white powder were sent to election officials in 16 states. This has intensified fears of the voters ahead of the impending presidential election. Election offices in Alaska, Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, Tennessee, Wyoming, Oklahoma, Georgia, Mississippi, Missouri, Massachusetts, Indiana, Rhode Island, Maryland, Colorado, and Connecticut have all confirmed receiving the mail. This has led to a joint investigation by the FBI and the US Postal Service. Early reports suggest some of the packages contained strange powders, raising alarms about potential biohazards. No casualty has been reported so far, but these packages haven't been greeted with smiles either. With less than 7 weeks remaining for the polls, the last thing election officials needed was a mystery box showing up on their desks. So far, authorities haven't confirmed any specific suspects. However, pressure is mounting to find out who's behind this postal paranoia. On the other hand, Trump's campaign rally in Tucson, which started with high energy, has turned out to be a bit of a medical mystery. Approximately 20 attendees of the Trump rally reportedly fell ill without unusual symptoms shortly after the event concluded. This has sparked concerns about a possible chemical attack targeting the former president or his supporters. Health authorities are investigating what caused the sudden wave of illness, but no official answers yet. Reports say individuals who attended the rally began experiencing symptoms such as blurry vision, swelling, and dizziness. Theories are swirling online, with some suggesting it could be heat exhaustion. After all, Arizona isn't exactly known for its chilly breezes. Others are speculating whether something at the venue triggered the symptoms. Either way, it's safe to say this isn't the kind of post-rally buzz Trump supporters were expecting. But with such events unfolding in the oldest democracy of the world, can it be said that the election in the US is no less than a war zone? Bureau Report, India Today Global.
Now moving on, in a twist that's shaking up the 2024 presidential race, the powerful Teamsters labor union has decided to sit this one out. This means no endorsement for either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. Now, the Teamsters International is a powerful US transportation workers union that represents about 1.3 million blue-collar workers. Normally, their endorsement is like a striking political goal. But this time around, they've swiped left on both the major candidates. This move breaks with decades of tradition. The Teamsters has endorsed a Democratic candidate in every election since 2000. Moreover, the union has not declined to endorse a candidate since 1996. This comes as both the Democratic and Republican parties have been courting organized labor ahead of the November 5th election. But what is their reason to not endorse a candidate this year? It seems that the Teamsters aren't feeling the vibe from either side. On one hand, they're wary of Trump's track record on labor issues stemming from his controversial stances on labor negotiations. On the other hand, Harris didn't win their hearts either. While the vice president has historically been pro-labor, reports say that the union is not entirely convinced with her policies this time. For now, it's like a political no man's land for the Teamsters. So now it looks like that Trump and Harris will have to keep campaigning hard without Teamsters' endorsement. But will the union stay neutral, or could they change their stance in the run-up to the polls? Either way, this twist adds a whole new layer to the 2024 election drama. So, for more on this now, we are being joined by White House correspondent Rohit Sharma from Washington, D.C. Thank you, Rohit, for joining us. So my first question for you is, what is Teamsters? Why is their endorsement so important in the US presidential polls?
Look, the Teamsters Union, I mean, these are international, officially known as the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. And, they've had a long history in American labor movement. They came together in 1903. For more than 100 years, they've been very influential in America, and they gained interest in some decades, like early, you could probably say, or for the first 20 years and in the next 20 years, but essentially their own endorsement of political candidates became really relevant in the 60s and the 70s, and they've had endorsed Republican candidates as well. I mean, there was a very controversial endorsement of Nixon in 72. They did endorse Reagan in the 80s. And then, when Reagan came down heavily on unions, I think since then we've seen them not endorse anybody from the Republican realm. So they've endorsed Clinton in 92, 96, Al Gore in 2000, and then John Kerry in 2004, Obama and Clinton and Biden. And look, if you look at this, they've obviously aligned themselves more with the Democrats. And then this year we also saw the chairman go and speak at RNC, kind of an indicator of how they were weighing their options and if people were happy or not. But very influential organization. They have a lot of people that are sort of that align themselves to how to vote and where to vote and which candidates endorse. Look, it's non-binding, but the endorsement goes a long way. And they're about most of these labor unions and Teamsters essentially, they are in the swing states, and that is why it matters a lot. About more than 1 million plus people live in those from variety of industries, and live in those swing states. And I think that is why this endorsement is really sought after. And it's like, not getting endorsed by them itself means that they are by default endorsing the other candidate. So it's very important it was very important for Kamala Harris to get this endorsement, and not getting an endorsement itself is a very telling statement.
So what is the reasoning that they've given? Why did they not endorse Kamala Harris this time?
Well, look, Kamala Harris actually did speak with them, and she got a standing ovation, from what we were told after her meetings with them, and it came as a surprise, and we've seen the internal polling from Teamsters, and they've actually come out and said, only 38% of people, I think, wanted them to endorse Kamala Harris versus President Trump. And now that is very telling in the sense that could probably be mood of some of those swing state voters in states that matter. So we obviously cannot speculate as to why, but looks like they've been very, very vocal about other candidates that they've endorsed in the past. I mean, look, when you get endorsement from them, not only are you getting those votes, but you're also getting people that could actually canvass for you and go to these swing states and talk for you. And I think it was assumed that they would endorse Kamala Harris. But them not doing that, I think, it probably is because of there are a lot of discussions, there are a lot of member polls. They talk about, different candidates and their platform issues. Healthcare is a big one. Job security is a big one. And I think those kind of things are discussed internally before they endorse somebody. So them not endorsing Kamala Harris tells you that, the labor people and, the blue collar worker are not happy with the Democrats. And that's why they've chosen not to endorse anybody. Now, it would have been much bigger news if they had endorsed President Trump, but they did not. They said we're just not going to endorse anyone. So it kind of is an endorsement, in a way for Donald Trump, by not endorsing Kamala Harris. But it is very surprising and shocking because these swing state voters matter a lot. 1.3 million, we're talking about voters. I mean, look, in some of the swing states, the elections were decided by 10,000, 15,000 votes. So a huge disappointment for the Kamala Harris campaign.
Okay, so how do you think now both the campaigns will proceed and react to this development?
Well, if she's obviously leading in polls, and like polls are worth, I call them polls only. These are not results. But at the end of the day, we are now seeing that there are some breakaway statements coming in from within Teamsters. We had the Black Caucus chairman come out and say he doesn't believe in the internal polling. The data could be skewed, and that's the data that was cited in them withholding their endorsement of Kamala Harris. So he's come out and said, this is, that something isn't right. We've seen some state, unions and I would say state chapters of Teamsters come out and endorse Kamala Harris. And you just saw an email come out from Kamala Harris's campaign that swing states in Wisconsin and Michigan and Nevada are endorsing Kamala Harris. Now that's a good sign for Kamala Harris, right? I mean, if these states and state chapters can actually work with her campaign and sort of endorse them on their own, but nationally not getting endorsed is an issue. But even if Kamala Harris can leverage whatever she can, especially when it comes to swing states, and sort of make inroads through the local endorsements in these states, I think they would still have probably a bit relieved, but not as happy. Or Trump, on the other hand, has gotten another talking point where he can go back and say, look, there hasn't been a candidate since Reagan that was endorsed by Teamsters. They're not endorsing Kamala Harris. There must be reasons, and I think his campaign is going to exploit that going forward. While the Kamala Harris's campaign is probably going to downplay the endorsement, but the fact of the matter is, she hasn't been endorsed, and that's a challenge, and she'll have to take it on. She will have to try to talk to these other unions. I mean, she's obviously gotten endorsed by other labor unions, but Teamsters is definitely big because their members live in the swing states.
All right. Thank you, Rohit, for joining us. And now it's time to talk in numbers. With less than 7 weeks remaining for the US presidential polls, the race for the White House is becoming quite intense. Vice President Kamala Harris is maintaining a narrow lead nationally and a neck-to-neck battle in several swing states. So let's take a look at how the presidential contenders are faring in the polls today. According to the New York Times poll, Harris is leading in the national polls at about 50% approval rating, while Trump is trailing at 47%. In the swing state of Michigan, Harris is still maintaining a lead at about 50%, while Trump is at 47%. In the state of Pennsylvania, Harris is at a narrow lead with an approval rating of about 49%, while Trump is at 48%. In the state of Nevada, Harris is at 49%, while Trump is at 47%. And in the state of North Carolina, Harris and Trump both are at a tie, locked in with at about 48% approval rating. In the state of Wisconsin, Harris is still maintaining a lead at about 50%, while Trump is at 48%. And in the states of Arizona and Georgia, Trump has taken a narrow lead with an approval rating of about 48%, while Harris is at 47%. So despite the polls showing a neck-to-neck race, political experts now say that numbers could still shift dramatically in the coming weeks. And now it's time to get you some quick updates from the political landscape in the US that you might have missed. First up, Donald Trump has admitted that he hasn't read his wife Melania Trump's new book during a campaign speech in New York. Now, the former president humorously acknowledged his lack of knowledge about the content of Melania's deep personal book. However, that didn't stop him from promoting it and urging his supporters to go and buy out Melania's new book. Melania Trump's book, titled Melania, is set to hit the shelves on October 8th. The New York police has dismissed reports claiming that explosives were found in a vehicle near the Trump's rally site on Long Island. Now, the police and authorities clarified that no explosives were found in any cars. Reports of explosives found near Trump's campaign rally surfaced just 3 days after a second assassination attempt on the former US president. And at last, in a pivotal grassroots push, the Harris-Walz campaign has launched its latest efforts to connect with Asian American voters. Now, this is through a new advertisement. The 60-second television ad emphasizes Harris's personal story and her lifelong commitment to public service. Now, the ad is being seen as a strategic push to engage with Asian American voters in key battleground states including Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. Now, before letting you go, we want to show you a heartfelt moment that unfolded backstage at a Donald Trump's rally in New York. An 8-year-old boy received the surprise of his life after Trump greeted him in person after the rally. The 8-year-old Liam, who has a rare brain disorder, was recently given a letter just before his 8th birthday by the former US president. Now, take a look at this as we leave you with Liam's heartfelt reaction to the surprise.
I'm supposed to be in that stage, but that doesn't matter. Because I got you the best president you'll ever have. This is the best president you'll ever have. How are you, Bob? Hi, Mom. Okay, honey, this is yours. And in there is real good stuff. Okay? So beautiful. See, look at that. Look at these great photographers. And we're going to have that picture of our life, okay? You and I. Is she going to come out and watch me?
Of course.
Because I left the stage in order to come and say hello to
How
him.
special you are.
Okay, honey? So beautiful. So you take care of Mom and Dad? This is your sister, right?
Takes care of us a lot right here.
So why don't you do this? Take care of yourselves. Okay, I'm going to go right after
Say
you.
thank you.
Take care of yourself, honey, okay? I wish I looked like that. If I looked like that, I'd be president.
So that's all we have for you in this edition of Race for the White House. Stay tuned for more updates on US election.